Am I getting the vaccine? What is the strangest part about online teaching? How did your first live lesson go? I never thought when I was doing my teacher training that I would be teaching this way ever. Sometimes I have to check to make sure that they're still all on the call. I think it's just the fear of the unknown. It was crazy. I definitely could not manage this online teaching thing full time, all of the time. Hi everyone, it's Miss Ross here. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, then welcome. If you didn't already know, then I am a Scottish primary teacher. I do a lot of videos about my teaching experiences. Scotland actually recently went back into lockdown just after the Christmas break, and from about the 6th of January, which is when the schools usually start back, we have been doing online teaching. There are still some children that are physically in school being supported in the hubs. Those are the children that are classed as vulnerable, or children whose parents are key workers. So the schools are still open, regardless of what the media is trying to say. The schools are not closed, teachers are working. In today's video, I'm going to be answering some questions that some people have sent me on Instagram about my experience of teaching during a pandemic. I think it's really interesting hearing about different teachers' experiences of teaching online, and I just really wanted to document this. Hopefully one day I'll be able to look back on this and think, wow, what a crazy time in my life. Just want to give a wee disclaimer before we get into the questions. These opinions are all based on my own experiences. I know that different schools are approaching online teaching in many different ways. In general, I'm just so proud of how teachers have adapted to this crazy situation. All of the teachers that I know are just trying their absolute best to continue as normal as much as we can, to support our children to continue their learning from home, and I absolutely take my hat off to the parents who are supporting them from home. It is such a big ask. These measures are in place for everyone's safety, and hopefully if we all keep to the rules and follow the guidelines, then sooner rather than later we will be back to normal schooling, because I do miss it. Anyway, we're going to get into the questions now. I feel like this is going to be quite a long chatty video. You might want to get a snack and a drink or something because it's going to be a long one. So the first question that I was asked was, when teaching in person, do you have to wear a mask? Now I'm assuming that was talking about before we actually made the transition to online teaching. I've been working in the school that I'm working in since October. In my school, teachers were encouraged to wear their masks as much as they felt possible. I do find it really difficult to project my voice and talk clearly when I am wearing a mask. So quite often when I was actually doing the teaching input for a lesson, I would stand at the very front of the class in front of the boards, and I wouldn't wear a mask because I would be 2 meters away from the kids. The desks were pushed quite far back so that I did have a lot of free space at the front of the class to move around. The next question is, did your class ever have to self-isolate if a child in your class tested positive? While we went through all of the track and trace process, the whole class bubble would have to self-isolate, and in that case we would transition to online learning. I'm going to touch wood and say that I was really fortunate that none of the classes that I was teaching in were affected. Although teaching in school was very challenging, we had very strict seating plans which we had to keep to. The children weren't really allowed to move around very much, which was difficult for everyone. I think there was a lot of tension in the classroom because pupils were stuck beside each other all day. I'm a really big advocate for active learning. That was definitely challenging. There was constant hand washing and sanitizing and table cleaning. There was that constant worry that suddenly there would be some sort of announcement that someone in the class had got the virus, but I honestly feel that the school that I'm currently working in did such an amazing job of rising to those challenges. The next question is, are you teaching live or pre-recorded videos? My school made the decision that we would be doing live lessons every day. The fact that I make YouTube videos definitely helps with the process, I think, because I'm not really that uncomfortable at the thought of people watching me. I'm used to just making things up on the spot and just talking nonsense at a camera, so I wasn't really too worried about that. But each day children have at least 2 online live lessons, a literacy or a numeracy lesson, and then there's also electives as well, like art, PE, music, French, that myself and the other teachers are helping to provide. So that's the next question. That's a really good one. How did your first live lesson go? Schools in Scotland went back on the 11th of January. That was the first day of official online teaching. We had a few in-service days before that to get prepared, which was really helpful. And on the Monday, the very first day of online teaching, I had my first lesson at about 10:30 that morning. Now it was for an elective, so the electives that we were running in our school are split into infant and upper end, so I was teaching primary 4 to primary 7. It's probably somewhere around 100 children. I must admit my heart was absolutely racing for that first lesson. I think it's just the fear of the unknown. I didn't know what to expect. Would I have technical difficulties? Would the children actually tune in for my live French lesson? But I knew since this was the first day that a lot of parents and pupils would be really curious about how this was going to work, and I think it's an important point to make that a lot of parents haven't had the opportunity to come into school yet this school year due to COVID, so this is quite an interesting insight into what actually goes on and their child's learning. And I had 70 pupils on Teams for my first ever live lesson. lesson. It was crazy. My laptop actually ran so slow just trying to connect and share my screen. I feel like afterwards you always catastrophize these sorts of lessons and you always think the absolute worst. But to be fair, since then I've still had the same numbers of children tuning in for my lessons, so I must have done something right. But yeah, not gonna lie, it was pretty intimidating for that very first live lesson. Do you find it harder to maintain a work-life balance while you're doing online teaching? I think teaching as a job in general, it is very demanding and it is hard to try and maintain that work-life balance. The school day is just full of so much stuff. It's such a busy environment, there are always things going on and there's always all kinds of different interruptions. It just never feels like there's enough hours in the day. I would definitely say it's a different kind of vibe with the online learning. I'm spending a lot of time by myself in my room alone. At home, without the peoples in front of you, you tend to get a lot more done, especially in terms of like planning and training and things like that. Sometimes it feels a wee bit more slower paced because you're just there with your own thoughts and in control of what you want to do instead of having 30 little people in front of you. There's so much more going on when you're actually teaching in school with the pupils and a lot of things get pushed to the side. But I think there are definitely some increased challenges. For example, providing feedback. Normally when I'm in school I just tend to mark as I go. Now online learning, I totally appreciate that people have difficulties uploading things, but sometimes you can have a child uploading their work for an entire week in one day. If everyone uploads at the same time, then it can result in you getting bombarded with a lot of stuff to mark. It's been difficult trying to provide meaningful feedback as well. Honestly, I was just delighted that children are even uploading work. For the most part, our school has had great online attendance. I'm just trying to use this time as efficiently as I can at the moment and be as productive as I can. Okay, the next question is, what hours do you work? I assume that means when I'm doing online learning. Things have changed a little bit from the last lockdown in March when the schools were closed. I think because that was during the summer term, it was the first time we'd encountered this. It was all a bit unprecedented. Now this is obviously the second lockdown that Scotland's been in. It's a different term. There is a bit of concern about children missing out on important learning time, so the expectations are ramped up a little bit more this time, and we are actually providing teaching of new content online and trying to provide meaningful regular feedback. The expectations are a lot higher and we are expected to work our usual working hours. I don't think a lot of people realise that. Some people think that teachers are just sitting at home, you know, doing nothing all day, watching Netflix. Most mornings I wake up pretty early and I am doing work from at least 8 o'clock onwards. I'm a bit more of a morning person, so I usually like to get things done earlier rather than later on in the day when my brain just turns to fizz. Most days I am online from about 8 o'clock preparing resources. There are days where I have meetings and training and things like that where I've been working till 5 o'clock. I like the fact that I'm already at home and I don't need to travel home, and that cuts out a little bit of time from my day. I can just kind of close the laptop and switch off. I think I'm enjoying it in the short term, but I don't think I could do this like longer term. I am looking forward to being back in school. The next question is, what has your attendance been like online? Most of the children seem to really enjoy being live and getting to engage with their teacher, even if it is just through a screen. For some of the electives that I've been teaching, I could not believe the amount of pupils that were participating. I think everyone is a bit more motivated this time around. I feel like we're providing a lot more high quality teaching this time around. I actually got quite a few duplicates of this question because I think this is what all of the teachers want to know at the moment. How have you managed to keep your children engaged? I really like this question. I think I've been enjoying some of my live lessons a little bit too much. The first thing that I usually do when I am doing a lesson with the children is I'll change the background of my webcam. That's something I really like about Microsoft Teams, is they have an option to kind of green screen yourself into lots of different places. So when I'm teaching French, for example, I did a lesson where I had the Eiffel Tower behind me, so that's always good fun, especially with the younger children. They like to guess where I am every day. I think it's just important to try and engage with the pupils as much as you can, even though you are like seeing each other through a screen. They do have the comment section, and obviously they can raise their hand if they want to unmute if I want them to answer a question for me. So I do try and get them involved as much as I can, asking different questions. I usually do a little health and wellbeing check-in where I ask them to rate how they're feeling and we'll just have a catch up. And then quite often after my lessons I will upload interactive quizzes and things like that to try and motivate them to make sure they're listening. I've also trialled out some little kind of motivation strategies, like having a secret student in the participants of the video call, and at the end I will reveal who the secret student was. I think it's just about being creative and trying to make it as fun for the pupils as possible. How do you like to switch off after a day at a laptop? Well, if you've watched my day in the life of a teacher, you'll get a bit more insight into what my day looks like as a teacher. I do try and get some form of exercise done daily. I'll admit that this isn't every single day because sometimes I just feel so drained and I just can't be bothered and I just need to go and and watch some Netflix, but it is a really good way to clear your head. Recently I've been really enjoying doing hula hooping. I like just putting my AirPods in and listening to a good tune and getting in the zone. But as well as that, I've spent a lot of time watching Netflix recently. I enjoy playing my Switch. Animal Crossing is my favourite game. I really like doing self-care. I always look forward to a pamper night at the weekend where I put on a face mask, go for a bubble bath with a bath bomb. Just relaxing and spending some time on yourself. It's so important to look after yourself, especially right now in these strange times. At the weekend, I usually always try and go a walk and get some fresh air and actually get out of the house. Okay, this question actually made me laugh because it says, do the kids legit have their own Zoom or Teams account? What if they're like P1? So every child here has access to a Microsoft Teams account in their own name. They have their own login and password. I think nurseries are actually doing this as well. So yeah, really young children are doing the video calling. I do feel really bad for them because they should be learning through play and through experiences. It's so hard to get them, you know, to engage through a camera. But when I have been teaching the wee ones, I just try and keep it really light, keep it fun, singing lots of songs, playing lots of games. The good thing is they do get really excited about their learning, and it's really nice being able to see them on screen as well. It is really funny sitting looking at 30 wee ones in a video conference. Some of them like to be a wee bit silly and unmute their microphone and make silly noises and things. I think hopefully we're now past that. That excitement has now worn off. We're kind of getting a bit more used to it. The next question is, what is the strangest part about online teaching? That's a really tricky one. The whole thing is a bit weird. I never thought when I was doing my teacher training that I would be sitting in my room teaching this way ever. It's weird not having the children actually in front of me. Sometimes I'm reading through a PowerPoint or something and it's just radio silence, and sometimes I have to check to make sure that they're still all on the call, because when they've all got their microphones muted, it is so quiet. You feel like you're just talking to yourself. So that would probably be the strangest thing for me about online teaching. This question says, am I getting the vaccine? Yes, I will be happy to take the vaccine as soon as it is available for teachers. I definitely could not manage this online teaching thing full time all of the time. As much as I am an advocate for digital technology, the children need that social aspect of school and the routine of actually coming to school every day. So I'm desperate to get back to normal schooling. That is pretty much it for the questions today. If there's anything that you'd be interested to know that I didn't answer in this video, then please feel free to leave a comment down below. I really hope you enjoyed learning about my experiences teaching during the pandemic. If you're a teacher too, I would love to hear about your experiences, mostly because I'm super nosy. If you like this video and you want to see more teaching related content, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel because we are so close to 6,000 subscribers. I will see you all in my next video. Bye!